We never just went with Mother anywhere. Just all of us together like that. So we walk up the path and we go to her room. And she has us kneel down and say a prayer. But all around us, then there's all these, like she had a hamper that was one of those 3-piece hampers when we stored our clothes in it. She had that out full of stuff. She had a couple boxes and bags. And so we kneel down to say this prayer, and she is just crying. And I am just like, what is going on? No, it was scathing. It was the worst message I've ever received.
I believe it.
And he told me I had to go live by myself with.
Welcome, everybody. This is a Jaden Jeffs podcast. If you're new here, I grew up in the FLDS and left the cult about 2-3 years ago, and now I'm doing a podcast. Today, I have my wonderful sister, who is my only sister that's a full sibling that's older than me, right?
Yep.
So we have five siblings, full siblings, right?
5 full siblings, yep.
And you are older than me. The rest of the girls, they're younger. Do you want to say anything or introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, guys. I'm Barbara Jeffs. I was born and raised in the FLDS cult, and I left about 3.5 years ago. I guess we're here to talk about our stories.
Yeah. I guess what let's do is start at Short Creek. Maybe just talk about, where because you were born in Salt Lake.
I was born in Sandy.
Maybe let's just kind of go through that
Okay.
a little bit faster, and then we'll start getting into some of the deeper conversations.
All right. Yeah, I was born here in Sandy. When I was 2 is when the family moved down to Short Creek. So I have no memories of Salt Lake when I was younger. My memories start when I was around 3 down in Short Creek. So.
Because when you were 2 years old when we moved?
I was 2 when we moved down, and so I have no memory of when we lived here in Salt Lake. I only have what I would hear from people. And then, yeah, we moved down to Short Creek and...
to Mother's hometown.
Yeah.
So Mother was raised in Colorado City, and she moved, when she married Warren Jeffs, she moved up to Salt Lake.
Yep.
But she was only here for 4 or 5 years?
Yeah.
Before all of Short Creek moved, or all the FLDS moved to Short Creek.
I would say 3 years. She was here for 3 years. Yeah.
1995, 6, 7, 8.
Maybe 4. I remember Dad being around more in my very first memories, and then I remember it being like an event when he came home. So he still came home every day, but it was like he was always with Grandfather, and then the big event of every day was him coming down the path with his bag of chips, and whoever could get to him first got his bag of chips.
Yes, and if you just remember in testimony meetings and all the mothers telling these, sweet stories about Warren, almost all of them is like Warren was coming down the path.
Mm-hmm. It's always Warren was walking down the path. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Or they got to walk up the path with him or whatever.
Yeah. So you have a couple memories, but do you remember like a specific experience with him?
Yeah. It was one of our birthdays, not my birthday, but so I was in a group of girls that were my age. It was it was 3 of us. Do I say names or not?
You can say their names as long as, if you're accusing them of something, then be a little more careful. But if you're just telling a story, then no, it's just fine.
Okay. We got to go with Father on this because it was a birthday. So it was just Father and us, and he took us in the back of his truck. And we had to stop. We went to get ice cream. We went and got ice cream. We got fries. It was
in the back seat.
Yeah, we were in the back seat. It was a one time, big deal. So we went out. We got ice cream, and then we had to go to the bathroom. He sent us in by ourselves. So it was just us 3 girls, and he had us all hold hands, walk into the bathroom, and then we had to hold hands walking out. So we would stay together.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember little things like that.
And I guess in some sense that's like a protective type of father, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of all we knew, really.
It was. We had fun days like I remember getting wet in the pools, or he would come out and he would spray us all with a hose. And that was just little things we would do.
And
we didn't get to see him very often, and nor one-on-one, but...
Yeah, and he was pretty busy all through our young years, but also I never saw like a negative side.
No, well, yeah, not really. I remember cutting my hair when I was 4, and I remember they took me to Dad, and he talked to me because...
You cut your hair?
Yeah, I got hold of some scissors and cut my hair.
Just like...
Just a little bit on the front.
Okay.
Yeah, and so...
So they were like...
Oh, yeah, I got taken up to Father's office at Grandfather's house.
Oh, really?
And, you know, he had to talk to me and tell me that was a bad thing to do.
Okay. I mean, it's kind of funny because it's like you're a 4-year-old. You know, maybe you're like cut your hair accidentally or whatever.
Well, I mean, kids do that. But I remember I had the scissors and Mom was in the bathroom. She had other babies. So, and I just was curious and I cut it. And then I felt so guilty. So I ran and hid it in the garbage and put the scissors down, but she found it.
I see. I also feel that if they could make a problem, if one of the mothers could make a problem about the children that wasn't too excessive, then they would do it because that was an opportunity to
get attention.
Get attention and spend a little bit of time with
him.
Warren Jeffs.
Get to talk to him or have some reason, yeah.
Yeah.
It was. You could, even at a very young age, you could feel the tension between all the mothers that were in the house. But I also remember him coming home with a new wife, a new mother. It was so cool.
Yeah,
he would come walking down the path. So there were times, in the very early memories, then people would know, like, he was getting another wife. But later, at like 5, 6 years old, he would just come walking down the path with a new wife. And I remember everybody would just go nuts over it.
Yeah, there is a new mother here. That's how it was for me.
Yeah, one time when 2 of them got married at the same time, then I don't think people knew at first, but then it was like, or maybe they did, and he was coming home with them, and we all gathered in the front of the door. He would walk in, and as he walks in, we all start singing a song.
Yeah. I wish there was a video. I remember him coming, bringing these new mothers, and as children, we would just be like, there is a new mother in this house,
It was,
and we would all be like trying to get a sneak peek of this mother. Like,
we wanted them to be on us, like, as our caretaker.
Can this new mother be on me?
Mm-hmm. Yep. As when we were younger. As it got older, it was like, ugh.
Yeah, as we got older, it also, overall, just any excitement was evil almost. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, but also you're getting older, and so more adults is just like, you get wary. You don't really want to have to deal with them that much.
Okay, let's talk about leaving the creek.
Okay.
I was 4 years old.
I don't know. I was 7 when we left. I had just turned 7.
Oh, maybe I was 5 then.
You probably were 5. I had just turned 7. So I was 6 when Grandfather died. I very well remember that. I remember the very ominous feeling around it, and then being told that Father was a prophet.
All the mothers were in their rooms praying.
We were home. We just were listening over the intercom, and our caretaker went out on the deck and knelt down and was saying a prayer. And I was
the mother.
Yeah.
The
mother.
Which?
Mother Becky.
Okay.
Yeah, she went out on the deck and was saying a prayer and was crying, and I remember the next day, everyone just seemed so sad. I was 6. And I said, why is everyone so sad? Grandfather would want us to be happy.
Yeah, I can remember it, but very little. But I just remember after that, it seems like there was a lot of sad.
Oh, yeah. There was so much tension, and everything was so... No one knew what was going to happen next.
I think it's safe to say that to some degree, even our lives at that young age changed. I would, like, from then on, when Warren Jeffs came home with a new wife, it wasn't exciting. It wasn't like, there's a new mother here. It was like, you mind your business from then on.
And just be happy for whatever happens.
Yeah. And if Warren Jeffs gets a new wife, or if somebody's told to do something, don't ask any questions.
Yeah. Things suddenly got very serious, and that was also when Dad stopped coming around a lot. I keep switching between Dad and Father.
What do you like to call him? Dad?
Dad now,
Father?
but when I'm talking about back then, it's kind of hard to remember. I don't know. You know?
It's hard to say Dad back then.
Yeah. Just
But
because that getting into the memory of, feeling how it was back then I sometimes switch.
But just so people know, we were required to say Father, and even
Dad
still
was a bad word.
Yes. Even still, when I say Father, I feel like I am being respectful and giving honor.
Yeah.
And Dad feels like...
It's a disrespect to him, almost.
Yeah, it feels like a way to just say, this is my biological father, to me.
Yeah, and there's not a connection in that word.
But most people in the world, they grow up saying Dad, so Dad is closer to father, to how we felt about father.
Yeah, but not really, because our father wasn't a real father. We don't know what a real father is like.
Yeah, he was...
A father to us is more that loyalty in, like, God.
Yes, a father to us is more like, yes, he's your biological father, but also he is your priesthood head. He is your connection to God.
You obey him no matter what.
Yes, a son will be sealed to his father, type of a deal in the temple.
Yeah. So, yes, it's like other people saying Dad, but it's also not.
Yeah, okay. All right, grandfather dies.
Yep, and then Dad became the prophet. And it was a year, about a year.
Was it a week after grandfather died that they said father's the prophet?
No, it was that very day.
It's that very day?
That very day.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mother Becky came back in the room, and she was crying, and then she said, Father's the prophet now. And I'm like, okay.
And there was this, like, energy in the air almost about it.
Yeah, it was very, very ominous, very... I don't know, even as a 6-year-old, I could feel everything in the air. Everything that was going on. I remember the meetings when we always stayed home. We were little, so we stayed home. But I remember the meetings where Dad sent all those guys away.
Do you?
Yeah, I remember all those things.
Was that before we left the creek?
Before, yeah. Because he was a prophet for a year before we left the creek.
Oh,
Yeah. I remember him saying that he couldn't go to... Someone would kill him if he went to the meeting house, to the meeting. Yes. Someone wanted to kill him.
And I think he even wore a bulletproof vest sometimes.
I don't know. I have no idea.
That's what I heard. But even back then, it's like he was quite paranoid.
Yeah. Oh, and I remember the first meeting that he spoke in Revelation words, like though he was receiving a revelation. I remember the first time that came over the intercom and he started talking like that. And, yeah, it was really weird.
It was amazing, though, because since the days of Joseph Smith...
No one had a revelation from God.
There wasn't a written revelation. And now Warren Jeffs is up there literally...
And so it's like we are in a new era. We are in, he is the prophet. We are receiving revelation from God finally.
Yes. It's like... This prophet is special. He's called to redeem Zion. And he is now given revelation like Joseph Smith did.
And it was like a prelude to the Lands of Refuge. He started doing that probably when he was looking for the Lands of Refuge, but that was about a year. Through this year, we were just in Short Creek. Things got strange and people started disappearing. I knew that I would wake up and it would be like, this mother's gone. And I remember the first time that some of the children left. They were just gone.
Remember Mother leaving before we left the creek? Wasn't there a time Mother left for like a week or two?
I don't remember.
Man, I think something like that happened.
May
But
have.
let's talk about leaving the creek.
Yeah. So it was a Saturday, and the beginning of the day started out strange. I mean, you could tell it was a different day, even as a 7-year-old. Dad came to Good Words, and at Good Words, he had us all kneel down, family prayer. Of course, we already did that, but it just was different.
And just so everybody knows, this is at the block in Short Creek.
This was at the house that said "Keep Sweet" or "Pray and Obey."
Pray and Obey.
On the chimney. Yep.
Yes, and it's in the main living room. And
it was actually up in the family room upstairs.
Yes, and Warren just has control of the whole block. His father's family, a lot of his wives have married.
Yeah, and in that year we had moved up to grandfather's house, so I was with my sisters, 6 of my sisters. We lived up at grandfather's house in one of the rooms, so we came back and forth between the north house and the south house every day.
Yes, it's almost like Warren Jeffs now has 2 houses with a bunch of women, and he just moved the families or moved the
we
mothers
just moved around all the time.
all around.
Yep.
And he would just say, "You move to this place, and you move to this place," and we'd do it.
Oh yeah, and then he would do things like called it fruit basket upset, where he would just walk around and write names on doors, and everyone moved.
Yes. It's crazy to think about, but I remember that too. And I think it happened several times.
Oh, it would happen all the time. Before he became the prophet, he would do that.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just mother whoever on this door, and write the boys' names, and you would go see your name on the door.
I think he did it before as the prophet. I'm not.
I think
sure.
he did, because even I remember it.
Yeah.
But that didn't happen later on very much.
Not as much. If it did happen, it was like, oh, Father's home. It's a special thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, at Good Words, he said, I'll be calling certain mothers to my office to talk to me. Everyone stay away unless you're called to talk to me, unless you're one of the names that are paged.
Yeah, let's tell everybody. So a lot of the mothers would want to talk to Warren Jeffs, and they would go up and
just stand in front of his office door
for hours. Mm-hmm. And there was there was 80 almost.
And
at
when
that
his
time.
door opened, then everyone would crowd inside or just stand there and hope that he would want to say hi or talk to them, or maybe they would get to go in his office and close the door. That was that. Yeah. So this was him telling everyone, do not come to my office. Do not stand outside the door unless your name is called.
Yes.
Paged over the intercom, and you're told to come talk to me. So all through the day, there was mothers' names getting called. I remember I remember when Mom's name got called, and we were still on with the same mother. We were with her doing stuff.
You were with Mother Becky, right?
I was with Mother Becky.
And we were with Mother Amy.
Mother Amy, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ada Marie. Anyway, that night, Dad came down and he played with us out on the court, basketball court. They played basketball. We played a whole bunch of games and it was so unusual.
Yeah, I remember this. It was 7 p.m., 6 p.m.
It was probably 6 because we had family prayer at 7.
What month was this?
November.
Okay, so it was probably getting dark a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
By now.
Yep, I think it was November. Yeah, nope, it was October. October 31st. We had to be out by November 1st. That was
okay.
Yes,
he had dates set.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so he came down and he played with us, and I remember hearing little conversations between the mothers. Mother Becky her name never got called, and I could tell something was off with her. And then I'd see her talking to someone else, or I'd hear these other people talking. So I knew it was different. Dad came down and played with us. All the children were outside. I remember Levi, I remember Ammon, I remember everyone. And I rode bikes while they played basketball, and we had so much. Oh, that was so fun.
Yeah, it was fun for me too. Yeah. And how long did it last?
I don't know. I mean, I was so young. To me, it was forever.
Yeah.
But I would say probably we had dinner at 5. Then we went out to play. So 5:30 to 7, 6 to 7.
And then...
At 7, sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, all this time, They are moving stuff.
Yeah, and the mothers are gone. Like, I don't see my mom anywhere. I don't, these mothers,
That's right.
they're just gone. Like, I only see Mother Becky and the mothers who are kind of on us, We call them on us, but they were our caretakers. So you could feel something was different, but nevertheless, I had so much fun that night. We did.
But that was strange that
the mothers were just gone.
And it was weird in the sense that we almost didn't notice, but we noticed.
Right. Like, yeah, we were kids, and maybe they thought that we didn't notice, but we noticed. We definitely noticed. And then we all gathered for prayer at 7. A family prayer. Before we knelt down for prayer, then Dad told, because he had only talked to certain people, only certain people knew what was going on. So he told all the caretakers, so the mothers that were on children that didn't have children, he told everyone that they're to send their children with their own mother that night.
Because that never happened.
No, we were always with our caretakers. At night, we would say goodnight to our moms, and then we'd go to bed with our caretaker.
And our caretaker would read or tell us a story.
Right. They would put us, they were our mother,
Yeah.
what a normal mother would do. So it was very different. I remember watching Mother Becky as she started crying, and I remember we were walking up the path. We went to Mother after, we all knelt down, had prayer. Dad said the prayer, which he didn't always say the prayer. He always, he would call on people. He said the prayer. We got up. We went with Mom. It was you, me, Sweetie, or Sienna and Jaska. Jask was really young. And
she was 11 months?
No, I think she was a year and a half.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so we walk up the path with Mom. And all the, it's really strange. There are groups, and we never just went with Mother anywhere. Just all of us together like that. So we walk up the path and we go to her room. And she has us kneel down and say a prayer. But all around us, then there's all these, like she had a hamper that was one of those 3-piece hampers when we stored our clothes in it. She had that out full of stuff. She had a couple boxes and bags. And so we kneel down to say this prayer, and she is just crying. And I am just like, what is going on? No, it was so foreboding. The feeling around everything was so foreboding. And so we kneel down and say this prayer, and in this prayer she says, give us the strength to do Warren's will and bless my children or whatever. And I'm just like, okay.
Yeah.
And so we get up and she says, okay, we're gonna go see Father. And so we walk in the north house where we live. There's a bridge from one side of the house to the other side of the house. So we walk that bridge we're pushing our hampers and we're carrying bags. And she's saying, you're going to go with Father. So she doesn't tell us that she's not coming with us.
Yeah, she doesn't say a word.
Nope. We walk across the bridge and we go to one of the garage. I can't remember exactly how the house is situated, but we go to the garage. And we open the door, and there's a couple, like, I see Mother Gloria and her children, and a couple different mothers and their children, and I see Grandmother Mare. And Grandmother Mare is crying. And not just crying, but I can see her attitude.
Yeah, and she has red eyes.
Yeah. And so we're standing there, and we stand there and wait, and then she rolls our stuff over, and they load it into the van. And we have... we would always go in vans, if we're going on an outing or whatever, we'd get in the van and it was fun. So we knew this as a fun thing, but I could tell something was wrong. Dad comes out and Mom walks up to him and hands Jax to him. And then we go, she's like, here's the children. And he takes us and puts us in the car here.
One by one.
Yeah. So I don't think he put us in. He passes us to people who are helping to put the children in the car, in the van, 15-passenger van. And Mom is bawling her eyes out. And so I don't remember me doing much. Maybe someone else remembers my reaction, but I didn't cry, but I knew something was wrong. And you and Sienna started hanging on to Mom, trying to, saying, Mom, we want to go with you. And she's like, you're going on a fun ride. You're going with Father. So we get on the car, and she's standing out, and it's dark outside. And so we get sat down in the van. I'm sitting by my sister, who's my same age, and she's crying. And all around me, children are just crying. And Mother Amy gets on the van, or gets in. Mother Amy gets in. A couple of the mothers get in. There's like 3 mothers on the van, or maybe 4.
Mother Amy, Mother Margaret, a few others.
Yeah. Mother Kate, I think a couple different ones. And I remember pulling out of the driveway. We back out and we're on the road.
And the reason Mother had to hand them to Father, or give them to Warren Jeffs, is because
his requirement was, or he said, it's your choice, but you come and you hand them to me.
Yes, it's like, this is a sacrifice of your children to the Lord, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, but I didn't know what was going on.
No.
And so we're driving.
That's one of his requirements, is you don't tell the children.
Yeah.
Because she didn't say a word.
Oh, no, she didn't. She didn't tell us she wasn't coming with us. She didn't tell us. She was just like, you're going with Father, and this is a special thing.
And she definitely cried all that night.
Oh, I'm sure. She was crying when we left, and that was, I was very sensitive to it. But I remember sitting on in the van thinking, I can't cry because I got to help all these other children who are crying. That was my thought. For some reason, I was 7.
Yeah. You're
anyway.
already a grown up.
Yeah, and then we drove for a couple hours, and then we met a motorhome with Dad. Dad was in the motorhome.
Wasn't it just like a half hour?
I don't know. I can't remember the time.
I think it was just out to like Hurricane or something.
Maybe. I just know we drove in the dark.
I think we went the other way out of Short Creek.
We did. I remember them saying we had to be so careful about being seen. Whatever.
So we went, I think it was somewhere over by Kanab.
Yeah. And we stopped in I don't know where. And we had to get from the van to the motorhome without being seen. So we jump in the motorhome, and then we drive with Dad.
He was standing, I remember he was standing right there at the motorhome door.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and they were passing the kids all from the van to the motorhome. They drove them up, and the motorhome doors open, and then they open the van door, so they're like, can't see. And then they're just passing us kids all, from the van to the motorhome. And then we drove in the motorhome to War One in Colorado.
And got there at like 2 or something in the morning.
Yeah. Yep, I remember we got there, and it's funny because Dad said we're gonna stop here for the night or something like that. In my mind, this was just we were stopping and then we keep going in the morning. So we stop and they take us to the barn. The house didn't have enough room, so they set up beds in the barn. We went to the barn. We went to sleep that night, and the next morning when I woke up, I thought we were getting back in the car to go somewhere. But we didn't. We stayed there. That was
that was the first land of refuge.
Yep, and it was covered in snow, and we didn't see snow like that before.
It was exciting.
It was exciting, overshadowed with Mom's not here.
Yes. And
then Dad would start saying things like, "You have to be good enough to be in Zion," and the children, you're here with me now to build Zion. So it was a kind of a shifting of your mom. In my head, your mom's not good enough to be here yet.
Yeah, I didn't really think that way, but I just wondered why.
Yeah. I caught on really well to everything that was going on. I remember vividly certain things that happened.
How long was it before we talked to Mother on the phone?
I think the next day, actually. Okay. Then Dad let us call and talk to him. It was Sunday morning. And Dad, we called and he said something over the intercom, and then he called Mom's phone and we got to say hi. Like, I have your children now.
Yeah, I remember talking to her a couple times.
We did get to talk to her a couple times, but it was 3 weeks before she came.
3 weeks?
3 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
And a bunch of the mothers came.
Yeah. What was so exciting to me was she was finally there and she brought me new shoes.
Yeah, she looked out for our needs.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we're at R1 for a while.
We're at R1 for 2 months.
2 months?
2 months.
I think it was 6 months.
It wasn't. So we went to Texas on January 4th,
Okay.
2004.
I'm glad you remember because I don't.
Yeah. Yep. 2 months we were at R1. A new house had just got built, so we moved from the barn to the new house. And then the new house at R1 was the first time that Dad was like, you have to be heavenly to go in the house. So we got to help clean it, when it was done at R1. But to be there, we had to have a prayer in our minds, we had to be heavenly to be able to go in that house. And then we moved in. We were there for not too long when we all the children went to Texas.
In a motorhome.
Well, we actually did the same thing. We left in cars because the motorhome kept getting stuck in the snow.
Oh.
So we left in cars, and then I think somewhere along the way we stopped and got on the motorhome. And that was even more scary because it was more out in the world where people would see us. So they put the cars so no one could see us getting in the motorhome, and we hop in the motorhome and we're on our way.
And then Texas.
Texas.
And we had no idea when we pulled up to Texas that our entire existence would kind of be there.
Yeah, that became home. It became what we called home, and even to this day, sometimes I call it home.
Me too. Zion.
Zion.
I don't call it Zion, but that's what we called it at the time.
At the time, it was called Zion, and Dad had said, this is where his children will be. This is home.
This is the main place. This is where we're going to prepare for the Lord's coming.
Yeah, and when we got there, it was January 4th, 2004. There was no houses built. We lived in trailers.
Yeah, in tents. Yeah,
because as more people came, there wasn't enough space, and the trailers were completely packed, and then tents. I remember they stood dressers up in the tent, so dresser, and then hung blankets so we could get dressed between the dressers.
Yeah, it was like those green army tents.
Mm-hmm, yeah, and then a tent for a porta potty.
I remember sleeping in those tents for a while, but specifically came this thunderstorm and ripped a couple of the tents clear out.
In Texas, yeah.
And all
flooded. There was 2 feet of water. Everything in the tents got wet, and yeah. And even in the trailers got all wet too.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Because to me, those days were I don't remember them super good, but they were fun because everything was kind of up in the air.
Yeah, it was a new thing. I remember that at the trailers is where one time my 3 sisters, we got in a fight, and our caretaker told us that we were the reason Dad couldn't come home because somehow we knew he was going to come. It was all exciting, and then he didn't come. So she told us that it was because we fought.
Wow.
Made it so he couldn't come home.
Uh-huh. I feel like that's probably what most of the caretakers would have done.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're all trying to, I don't know. The caretakers are just another subject, and maybe we'll get into a little bit more, but then our house gets built. Yeah,
the first 3 houses get built, and we move into one, and that house was cram-packed with people. We lived there. I don't know the time frames on this. We lived there for a while. That house is where Barbara died, or where we were living when she died.
Yes.
I remember that very well. I remember her funeral, everything around it. But right after she died is when we moved to our main house in Texas.
I don't think people realize the prophetic vibe that Warren just carried in the funeral.
Oh, yeah.
Where he's talking, it's this is a Joseph Smith speech type event sort of a thing. It's
yeah.
if you got to listen to Joseph Smith give one of his sermons, that's kind of what it would be like. Kind of, I don't know,
Well,
just
yeah,
the vibe.
and her funeral, he did her eulogy. He ran everything.
Yeah, and he talked for quite a while on that one.
Yeah. He told how hard it was for her to give her children up because she had cancer and she knew she may never see him again. You know, that was a big part of the story.
Then we get our big house built.
Yeah, and then we moved to, we call it the original house.
Any stories for us
for the original
through these
house?
times? Just through all these times. A little bit of drama between the mothers once in a while. They were doing pretty good. I mean, they were all trying to be Zion.
Yeah. Well, while we were here, I became a temple builder.
Oh, did you?
I don't know if
Let's explain. Okay. In order to work on the temple,
you had to get an ordinance, hands laid on your head, and be ordained a temple builder.
Yes.
So there was more than one. There was temple builder and temple worker. Temple builder, you could be on the property, but you couldn't go inside the temple. Temple worker, you could go inside.
Yes. If you wanted to lay stone, for example, on the outside, you needed to be a temple builder. If you wanted to lay carpet and do some of the woodwork and whatnot in the inside,
you have to be ordained a temple worker.
Yes. And so you were a temple builder.
Yeah.
And you were helping with some of the
yard work.
Pretty
much is all.
Okay.
Yeah. That was weird. It was the start of separating, like, you're better than them. You know, so I was 8, and I because I got baptized, then I could become a temple builder. Then Dad said I could help with the temple, so they would come and get me. And Grandmother Ruby would come get me. And we'd go just, weed, plant flowers, water, flowers. And one of the times I found a piece of window. The windows were not see-through, they're tinted. So I found a piece of window, like broken glass. And I was like, I wonder if I could see through that window. So I hold it up to the window and I'm trying to look through the window and I'm trying to, just looking at this glass. I never went back. I never got to go back.
Oh, wow. Because you were doing it towards the temple.
Because I was trying to see what was inside.
Okay.
No, we just went to school and we...
Yeah, what's a day like at R17?
At what age? When we first moved to the original and the school started up, then...
When she says original, she's talking... So when we first get there, they have 3 houses built. One of them is our house.
It's called the South House.
And maybe I'll put pictures on here so people know.
So we moved to the South House, and then our bigger house gets built.
And it's an H.
And it's like an H, so it's one long wing and then 2 long wings.
And in Warren Jeffs family, it doesn't matter if you're talking to us or if you're talking to the people in North Dakota or if you're talking to, Mother Amy or whoever. You just called that the original.
Yeah.
the bigger H one, because later a new one was built.
Yeah. Yeah, so when I was 8, we would wake up at 5 a.m., be to Good Words, family gather, read Good Words, read Uncle Roy's sermons for 20 minutes, and then we'd eat breakfast. And usually right after that, if we had school, we'd go to school, spend the day at school, come home, do homework, do a house job, have another family prayer, and go to bed. If it wasn't school, we would eat breakfast, and then we'd go to the garden. It was always the garden.
Yes, it was the garden or digging cactus.
Digging cactus, yeah. Because Dad said the cactus was a curse.
Yeah, and we would go out and we would just spend like the whole day chopping cactus and digging it out of the ground and putting it in a pile.
Or picking rocks. There was rocks everywhere, so we'd put them in big piles for some reason. Not sure why.
Yeah, when we went back and snuck on the land, there's still all these rock piles
Really?
everywhere. Yeah, just
So weird.
yeah.
It was always work. There was no play. Oh, I remember when we had to get rid of all our toys. I was 8, or I was still 7, I think. Dad decided no more toys. I remember taking my dolls. I had like 3 dolls. One big one, one smaller one, and then one tiny one. They all had names. Carried our dolls up to the garbage pile to get burned.
Yeah, and that would be something that we would mock through the rest of our life.
We had dolls.
Yeah, we had, oh, you want a toy. It was something weird, I guess. If you wanted a toy, you were weird.
Yeah, oh yeah. After that, we had no toys, and it was always work. Work is our fun.
Work is our fun, is what Warren Jeffs would say.
Yeah. And we would be so self-righteous and be like, work is fun.
There was enjoyable times where we would all get together and really just converge on a project and do and that would be a good time. But after that, the only fun was that.
Yeah, it didn't happen very often, and we were still in groups, like our age groups, with certain caretakers. And usually that's who your day was spent with. You'd come to meals, see everybody, and then go back. There was a time we had 7, 8 girls in one bedroom. Bunk beds, 3 levels, bunk beds, and,
bunk
stack
beds,
us in there.
Bunk beds were the way.
Yep. Homemade bunk beds.
Yeah, Grandma Gloria whipped those things up. I remember helping her do that. All right, are we done with that, or Texas Raid?
All right. Yeah, what do we want to talk about? Because
there's an endless, just kind of the general thing of your story, because the police come, right?
Yeah.
The first day, and we're just up in our house.
That night we were gonna go up the rock pile, climb the gravel pile.
Your caretaker and
a bunch of us all together were gonna go. But then those guys came to the gate and we didn't go, and it was like we were so blessed that we didn't go, before they told us they were there. But
just so everybody knows, the rock pile was the tallest point on the land, essentially, and they had dug the sewer ponds and all the other buildings, and they brought the rock up and just piled it really high.
Pile it, and then it just became this huge thing, and it was fun to go climb.
Yes, and for us, that was maybe one of the fun things that we got to do once in a while.
That wasn't work.
Yes, let's go up to the rock pile and probably hear a story of one of the prophets while we're up there.
Yeah, climb it and then sit down and hear a story, and then maybe slide down and get all dirty. I don't know.
Yeah.
I hope you're gonna cut some of this out because I keep stumbling.
Oh, I'll cut the bad parts out, but I'm gonna leave most of it in because I think it's been pretty good.
Okay. Yeah, I remember watching all the girls get taken down to the meeting house. They were trying to not I think Grandpa and Mary was trying to not let them come to Dad's family. It was kind of a thing of, we'll take him everybody else, but not the prophet's family for as long as he can.
Yes.
Because Dad was in prison and whatnot. And so I watched them all go down there. Ammon went and got videos. So he videoed and would come back and show us all the videos. I remember watching the videos. We watched all those girls get taken from the meeting house and get loaded on buses. Then they started coming to our house. Or to all the houses.
Yeah, it was like the first day they took those girls, and then the next day they came up to our house.
Yeah, so they started going to all the houses, but they essentially came to our house pretty quick. I remember just looking out the windows, and they started coming up, and I was so very scared.
Yeah.
But we gathered to the living room, and they all, they come in, and then they tell us they're gonna take us, and it was kind of a whirlwind, honestly. In the house, we couldn't wear shoes. So at every outside door, there was a shoe shelf with shoes, our shoes. And we had to remember where our shoes were.
This was how we kept our home a temple.
Yeah. And so when they told us that we had to go, then I couldn't remember where my shoes were. And so I would go to run to one door, and there would be, a cop there, and he'd, block my way. And I was so terrified of them.
Mm-hmm.
But I almost left without shoes because I wanted to stay with, my group of people. It's just big girls that I was with. I wanted to stay with them, but they were all going, and I couldn't find my shoes. So I was running from this door to that door, and other people were too, but I guess I should have got ready before, but I didn't.
Got what?
Got ready. Like,
Oh,
been
yeah, we
ready
didn't
for that
know we
to
were
happen.
going.
But, yeah,
Nah. The last thing we should have been done is get ready to go.
I know, but I think some people did.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, people had their stuff, it was, I don't know. So I was just running around so scared of the cop outside. If you open the door and they were out there and they all have these guns pointed at the house. And so you open the door and they're like, your kid.
Yeah, they're clearing the house. And so they don't want you running around a corner and getting shot.
Well, I get it now, but at the time
Right.
I was just, there's this gun in my face.
Yeah, I remember Abe running down the stair and the cop's like, hey, you're
Yelling.
going to get shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And now I realize they were probably making sure it didn't happen. But at the time I was like,
Right.
they're just trying to hurt us.
No, it was scary. I certainly had never been around people like this.
Oh, no. It was very different.
I was intrigued in everything from what's going to happen right now to these guys' strange clothes choice,
Yeah. But we all get, walk out to the buses and get on the bus. And as we're getting driven off the land, we all sing Keep Zion Growing.
Yes, I remember that. We were singing when they walked into the living room.
Oh, yeah. We were singing hymns. And then on the bus, we started singing this homemade song called Keep Zion Growing.
That was one of my favorite songs.
Yeah. It was. Now it's just like the most boring song you could ever sing.
Should I play a little clip
No.
in here?
I'm sure if you want, but we first get taken to the pavilion. No, we get taken to the Civic Center.
Civic Center in El Dorado.
Yep, and we're there for 3 days. In those 3 days, the temple gets broken into. They get in the temple, and this was like the end of the world because Dad's always said, if they get in the temple, then we're like doomed.
A rejected people.
Yep. We'll be rejected by God, and it's all our fault because we weren't good enough. So they get in the temple, and I remember standing there feeling like, okay, so now are we doomed?
Yeah, I do too. I remember...
I mean, you said we would be doomed. Are we doomed now?
I legit thought we were for a minute.
Yeah, I was like, this
what
is
do we
the
do
end.
now?
We're totally going to be destroyed
I'm
now.
going to dissolution.
Yep.
We were all sitting on the cots in the Civic Center, and we had our heads
down, praying.
I'll put a picture of that in.
While we had phones, and we could hear the banging on the temple door while they were trying to get in. And then they get in, and then it's all like... It's so funny because now it's so anticlimactic. Nothing happened.
You mean now?
They got in and nothing happened.
Oh, I see. Yeah, because we were in
We
the
weren't
Civic...
destroyed. We weren't
Yeah,
doomed.
remember this Wendell Nielsen sent this message to everybody saying,
Yeah.
the Lord still accepts us if we continue to strive.
Yep, I remember thinking, oh, so we were doomed and now we're not.
I remember thinking, oh, that was a close one.
Yeah, then we went to Fort Concho. We were there for a couple days. We got questioned. That's where, okay, I was 11 at the raid time. That is where the lady took me in by myself and asked me how many children I had.
That's crazy.
I was 11, and she knew I was 11. She was like, how many siblings do you have? And I said 5. And she said, or I said 4. And she's like, okay, and how many children do you have? And I was like, I don't have any children. And then she asked me about the temple. And I just started crying because we were told we couldn't talk about it. So I was told I couldn't even say if I had been in there or not. I couldn't say if I had not been in there.
Yes.
Yeah. So we couldn't even reveal had we been in the temple or not. Now, I had been on the temple, a lot, and helped mow the grass and helped plant the flowers, but I had never been inside. So she starts really, it was really mean the way she asked her questions and pushing me and telling me, did you see a bed in the temple? What did they do on the bed in the temple? And all I knew was that I couldn't say no or yes, because if I did, I would break my covenants. And I didn't know if there was a bed in the temple. I hadn't been in the temple. I didn't know. Yeah. And so she's pushing and pushing until I'm just bawling my eyes out.
It seems like they were really mean.
They were. That lady was so mean.
I mean, they questioned me probably not as much, but
I get that they wanted answers, but that lady did not need to do that to an 11-year-old.
Yeah, and they were like bullies almost. Instead of being nice and saying, how was it here? I mean, they're much more likely to get things out of you if they're nice.
Yeah, and this was CPS. So there was different kinds of workers there. Some were nice, but the ones who did interviews were always mean. Oh, okay, maybe there was some that weren't. But that interview was so bad. I was so terrified out of my mind that I was going to break my covenants and be doomed forever. I was more scared of that than of what she was doing to me.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yeah, because I guess this is a whole nother thing, but Warren Jeffs would give hour-long trainings on the Lord's confidence.
Oh, yeah. And to be, the ultimate goal was to get to go into receive temple ordinances. So to get to go in the temple was this sacred, secret thing. And you could never reveal. That was the thing. You could never reveal if you went in the temple and what was in there.
If you talked about it, you could be damned forever.
Oh, you would be. If you said a word about it, you would be damned forever. You would be cast off. You would be an apostate. You would be destroyed. Yes. You wouldn't be lifted up when the judgments came.
Tell us a little bit more about the raid. And then after the raid.
And in the raid, they got to a point where they separated the older children from the mothers. So in the pavilion, then there was all the children from 5 years old and up, and the mothers got taken away. In the Coliseum, there was all the mothers and children who were babies, 5 years and under.
And this is in San Angelo.
Yeah, when we got there, okay, Mom had gone to see Dad when the raid happened. So she wasn't home.
She was over in Kingman.
She was in Arizona. And so her children were just kind of everywhere with other mothers that had come,
Yeah, I was with Mother Kate.
Mon was with Mother Stell. I was just everywhere. I went back and forth. Sienna and Jask were with their caretakers that had come too. When we get in the buses and are taken to the Coliseum and Pavilion, we're told, we're going to stop here. Anyone who has kids 5 and under, get off the bus. But on this bus, only me and Mon are on there. You guys, I didn't know where you were. So it was just Mon and me and Mother Stella. She was our aunt. So she's like Mom's sister. And so we're with her because she's a relative. So they're thinking, well, if we stay with her, then they'll, kind of be a family. But Mon is 3. And so they tell us we have to get off, but they won't let Aunt Stella come with us.
Oh.
So me and Mon get off and we go into the Coliseum. And I remember walking in and going and finding us a cot. And it was just me and her. I was 11. She was 3. And I wanted to know where you guys were. I was like, at the end of the day, I need Mom's kids to be together. Because she wasn't there. She couldn't keep us together. So I started going to every staff in the Coliseum asking about you guys. Where are they? Can they please come here? Can I go to them? There was one lady who listened to me and made it so we could go. So that night, we didn't even sleep a night at the Coliseum. That night, they came and got us and took us to the pavilion.
Mon?
Yeah, me and Mon. So that we could be with you guys where you guys were.
Yeah. So you and Mon were at the Coliseum with us.
No, we were at the pavilion. We were at the Coliseum and you guys went to the pavilion.
Okay, yeah, I have them mixed up.
Yeah. So we were at the Coliseum. I was sitting there eating food and this lady walks up to me and says, "Come with us." And I was terrified, completely terrified. I was 11. There was no real adults that were helping me at all. And So I'm just holding on to Mom as tight as I can because I don't want them to take Mom from me. And so we walk out. We walk out of the Coliseum doors, and there's a bus right there. And my heart was stricken with fear. I was just frozen. I was like, no way am I getting on that bus alone. But we didn't get on the bus. We turned and we walked over to the pavilion, went inside, and all the mothers were already gone. So I walk in the back of the pavilion, and all the kids are at the other end. So me and Mom, we walk in, and I'm just like, whoa.
Yeah, I remember walking in. For my young mind, it almost seems like this huge building.
Yeah, probably not as big as we remember.
I know.
But yeah, and then from the pavilion, we all got separated into places all over the state. And
that day that we got separated was something.
Horrific. It was horrific.
Do you remember? Oh, man. There's definitely not a video of that anywhere.
I wish there was.
I'm sure there is somewhere.
I remember looking up, and one of the staff so it was just a flip phone, had their phone out recording. I remember.
I'm sure that's videoed. But that was one chaotic scene.
Yeah, the day it was, so we had been there for probably a week or two.
It was probably 3 weeks,
3
wasn't
weeks,
it?
maybe.
I don't know.
Probably. And then all of a sudden, this morning, they start, you can tell something's different. The staff starts, doing different things. I can't remember all the things, but they tell us we need to get, gather. They need to have an announcement. So we all gather to this carpeted area where we would usually gather every night to have, sing and say prayer at night. And they get all the younger children in the middle, and all the older girls are on the outside, and they all hold hands around us.
Yeah, it was a plan we had, right?
Yeah, so that we couldn't get separated. I guess. I don't know. I was on the inside, and I was holding Mom. And then you came over to me, and then Sienna and Jess too. But they start with their announcement, we're separating, we're going to take you to different places. I can't remember how they said it. I think it was age groups at first. That they were going to take the older girls, and then they were going to take the younger children. And we just immediately...
But they were going to take all the boys separate.
Yeah.
Which...
But it was crazy. I don't even know how long it took. The girls held hands, and we just got in this tight circle and wouldn't budge.
I think it was 3 hours.
I don't even know. I just
was.
remember sitting there, and one of the girls decides to say a prayer, and they tell us if we don't separate and let them do their thing, then they're gonna start coming in and doing it forcefully.
By the end, we were screaming.
Oh, that room was full of screaming children and adults. I mean,
yeah.
Not adults, but older children, and probably
the staff would come over to the circle
and they would reach in
and grab,
and we would just scream.
And they would be like,
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
And in the middle of it, one of the girls pipes up and just starts saying a prayer.
Oh yeah.
And the whole room went quiet.
It was terrifying.
And in the middle, David Duran and Becky.
I don't even remember that.
This is what I remember is that Becky Wall, right?
She came, but did she come that day?
That's what I heard.
Really?
Is she came, like, they were all pointing at her saying, like, there she is. And, I thought we were looking at, like, the devil.
Yeah. And she actually came before that when we had first come to the Coliseum and Pavilion. And I remember listening to the conversations around me, and she was coming in, and oh yeah, she was the devil. It was like, an apostate is coming, don't even talk to her, you know. They get us finally to agree to not make him do it forcefully. They take all the boys.
I think
first.
Ammon called and said, hey, all the boys are coming here.
They got Ammon on the phone, that is right. And he said that's a good place, the boys will be fine. And that was kind of what broke everybody up. So they get all the boys, and the boys go first. And then they're like, okay, we're going to call names. When we call your name, come to this area. So, and they're doing it according to buses, So they call Marianne, and she has Mahonri. And then they call Jessup.
Yeah. So, like, Warren Jeff's youngest wife, essentially.
Yeah. They call Mom, but not me. And I'm like, hell no. And so, I can't remember how this happened. Someone just took her in the group. Someone took her and was like, we'll take her. It'll be fine. And then they called Marianne, but they didn't call Mahanrai. So she tried sneaking Mahanrai, because Mahanrai was quite young. Barely a year, maybe, or two. So she tries sneaking, taking him and sneaking into her group, and they threw the biggest fit. They're like, no. So I took Mahanrai. So Marianne took Mon, I took Mahanrai.
Okay.
And luckily we went to the same place. Oh. We were on different buses, but we went to the same place. I had never changed a diaper before. We get on the bus, and Mahanrai just leaks all over me. And so we had to stop. There was 3 buses going to the same place we were going, so all the buses had to stop, and they had to get diapers off a different bus, and they brought the diapers to me, and then I had to figure out how to change this baby's diaper. And the little bathroom that's on the bus, it has a toilet, not really a place to change a baby. I had never changed a diaper.
First
figured
time.
it out.
Yeah.
Crazy. And then we went to, different places over the state, and we're there for about a month, I would say.
Yeah, that's what I remember. And then Mother came and visited you probably.
I think we had 4 visits with Mom. She came and she would bring food, she'd bring clothes, different things for us. And then, then we got the judge ordered for us to go home. So we went and lived in San Antonio for 8 months.
Yes, because the mothers had to show that they could support their children.
Because it was still active in court, but we got to be with our mothers, but we were still under CPS supervision until the courts deemed us safe or whatever.
Yeah, so we moved into a house where Mother could, and she got a job, and she could show, okay, I can work and I can earn money, and these are my children, and we have this place that we can live. And they would come and just do a walkthrough, and right?
Yeah. Yep. CPS would come, our attorneys would come see us, and we did a lot of fun things. Yeah,
we went to SeaWorld. We went to lakes. We got bikes, we got toys, we got dolls, we got not dolls, the younger children, but yeah. We got them in CPS custody.
So we kept them. And they had to let us keep them. Or when the CPS would come, they would say,
yes,
something's wrong or whatever.
It was a very lax time. Everybody kind of just relaxed.
It was just, we got to do what we can to keep our children. So give them this, give them that, let them have that. My attorney would bring me books.
Oh, really?
Yeah. My attorney only had one other client of our children. But she was really nice. And she would take me in her room and she would say, Barbara, I want what's best for you. What do you want? And I would be like, just to go home.
That's what we all said. What do you really want? Want to go home.
I just want to go home, want to go back to R17, YFC Ranch. And she was like, okay, I'm going to make that happen for you. Mm-hmm. But she was like, I need your mother to not be in here. I want to hear it from you.
Yeah.
You're going to get the truth out of a 7-year-old kid. Or 11-year-old.
Well, and that is what we wanted.
It is.
I mean,
it's all we knew.
Yeah, it's all we knew. And we were in a very weird spot.
Oh, yeah.
But by the time we left the pavilion, we all had toys.
Oh yeah.
And we loved them. Mm-hmm. We had remote control cars, and I was dead.
We were at a place called Gonzales, and I remember they gave us bikes. Not just gave everyone bikes. There was bikes. There was scooters, and I remember 2 of the kids fighting over a bike. It was like, no, I had a person. No, I want to do it. And we were like, that's why we don't have toys.
Yes.
But
okay, San Antonio days pass. Anything we need to talk about there?
Yeah, so I was 11, and to be non-suited, I had to do this class, 3-week class where they took us and told us about our right, like us as children, as girls, because, the fear was underage marriages, like a 12-year-old who got married and raped or whatever. I shouldn't say whatever, but so we had to go to these classes where this CPS worker, or I don't even know if she was CPS or what she was, but she pretty much was doing an education of you and your body.
Okay.
And it was very age appropriate, but it was very like our mothers threw a huge fit about it. But it had to be done for us to be for our cases to be dismissed, or us to be, it was called non-suited or whatever.
Yes.
So we would go, and they would just, they would ask questions like, if you were an animal, what would you be, and fun things like that, where it was, do games and stuff, and we were the weirdest kids I bet that they ever, because it was like, we couldn't think for ourselves, honestly. It was like, we just wanted to make sure we said the right thing.
Yeah.
And our mothers were in the room. That was the only way they would let it happen, was that our mothers were in the room. So we had to think about what our mothers, were hearing us say, and then be scared that this lady was telling us something bad. Because she would just say things like, you have private parts, and no one should ever touch you in those private parts unless you, or actually she just said no one should touch, that's your private part, no one should touch you. And just saying private parts was like, immediately like, this is bad.
Yeah.
No, don't listen. Don't listen to her. She's telling us something we shouldn't know, or whatever. And so we go to these classes, and at this time, then Dad is sending written communication. He may have been calling at that time.
Yeah, he was calling.
But I got this message from him that said, I think he wrote on a postcard to me. That's what happened, because he would send postcards out through his attorney. He sent me a message that said something, I think I have it somewhere, I should have brought it, something like, forget everything that wicked woman told you, and just obey your father, and be a good priesthood girl. And now I'm like, asshole.
Do you have it?
The message?
The postcard.
I think I have it.
Yeah, we should.
Either the postcard or the typed message.
Yeah, if we have it, we should just put a screenshot of it.
I'll have to look at my stuff and see if I have it. But now it's like, we were literally being taught about our own self. I mean, what we have a right to know, being educated in the right way, and he was like taking that away. Like that's, I don't know. Now I'm just like, wow. Wow.
Yeah, it's like, what they were doing was probably not, it was probably a reasonable.
Oh, it's very reasonable. It was very age appropriate. They didn't tell us anything bad.
I don't think they did it for anybody under 10.
No, it was 11 and up to 15, I think.
Yeah.
So there was all of us girls there. It wasn't bad at all.
Yeah, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it was kind of a strange thing. And then to get non-suited, Mom had to go get x-rays.
Oh.
She was 3. Mom was 3. And she had broken several bones, from the time she was little to 3 years old. She had broken her arm twice and both her legs.
Really?
Yeah. So for us to get non-suited, she had to go get an x-ray, full body x-ray.
Why did she break bones?
I don't know. She just did.
Tripping over things? Or?
No, one time it was my fault. We had, remember Sweetie Bird?
Yeah.
So we had one
Everybody,
pet.
that's a parrot. It's a parrot.
It's a parakeet. It's a parakeet.
Oh, parakeet. The one animal
that we had as a pet was this bird. And it was
the whole family's.
Yeah. It was just always in our house growing up.
Sat in the dining room.
It would say anything that got repeated all the time.
Keep sweet.
Yeah. It would say, sweetie, chew your food.
Yeah.
Anyway, we were cleaning the bird cage, and she was 2, and I was like, here, let's do this, and I'm 8 years old, and I hold her up on the bird cage. She's holding on it. So I lift her up off the ground and she drops and breaks her leg.
Oops.
Yeah, that was my fault.
Yeah, oops.
But yeah, she had to go get full body x-ray and in the raid when we were at Gonzales and Mom, there was this really nice lady who would come every once in a while, and I don't even know why she wouldn't come very often, but she would come every once in a while, and we all loved her. We absolutely loved her. She was so nice. She had Mon in her arms and was just walking around saying hi to us, and Mon, while she was in her arms, rolled her sleeves up to be like the ladies. She was like, I want to be like you. And the lady puts her down, pulls her sleeves down, and says, you want to be like your sister. And that's why we loved this woman, because it was like she respected us.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, so in this, Mom's getting x-rayed so we can get non-suited. She has the gown thing on and all her clothes off, or whatever. Her dress had to come off. She's sitting there in the gown, and she goes, I'm like, I can't remember the name of the lady. I'm like her.
Uh-huh.
She's fluffing.
It's a good thing Dad didn't know about that.
And Mom was like,
yeah, I can see that.
yeah. Anyway, after we did, I did my classes, Mom got her x-rays. Then we got non-suited and we went hiding.
Yeah, we went to Texas for a week or something.
Yeah, we were there for about a week, and then it was like this fear that it would happen again or that we'd get taken away again. So all the children, as they got non-suited, went hiding.
Let's talk about going to hiding.
What about it?
I don't know. That was our first time, right? We went to Colorado. It was fun. It wasn't fun. I don't know. It was a different vibe.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it was fun. Because we had this house, and then we had, a place, we'd go out in the woods and build fires and like roast marshmallows, and
I loved it.
Yeah.
I liked hiding. I didn't like that we were later on when we were unworthy and had to be there, but at that time we weren't in hiding because we were unworthy.
Yeah. It was more to keep us safe from the Gentiles that wanted to take us away from our parents. So, but it was a big house, but that house had like 40 people in it.
Yeah, how big was that house? I thought I said at one time that it was 4,000 square feet, but
I'll bet that one was more.
Thinking back on it, I wonder if it's more like 6,000 or 7,000.
I'll bet that one was more like 6,000 or 7,000. It was a big house, and it was really nice.
And it was a beautiful yard. It was 5 acres, but it was really secluded.
Yeah, and we'd go sledding when it was winter, and the neighbors would come running. The neighbor kids decided, I guess they weren't there very often, and then all of a sudden they're there, and we see them come walking through the kids, and we all go screaming our heads off running into the house. They can't see us.
Yeah, the leach field had to get redone there too.
Yep.
Which was, I think, strange for the owners.
Yeah, but that wasn't the only. So we lived there, and then we went home. Remember how for the dare chase, we all went home?
Yes.
It was like 3 months
so we went to hiding, and then we were there for a while, and then all the family kind of moved back.
Yeah,
to
it was
R17.
Yeah, for some reason we all went home. I don't even know why.
I think that was the one time that there was 1 or 2 of our family.
There was probably about 6 or 7 of the mothers that weren't there.
Okay, but pretty much everybody.
It was so many people packed in our house.
Yeah.
But yeah, we went back home, and we were there for, so we went back, but we weren't going to stay. It was just going to be like a few days. We ended up staying, just staying there for like 3 months, and then we went back to hiding.
Yeah, and so everybody that's wondering what the dare chase is, basically the FLDS land in Texas is 2 miles wide. Or is it 1 mile by 2 miles?
1 mile by 2 miles.
So we get across, all walk across at the 1 mile way.
But they had built, so they wanted all the housing to be on this part, and then they had built a fence from one end to the other end, and was like.
And it was laying down.
Yeah.
So we all get on the back side of the land. Everybody gets pots and pans.
And flapper things that make noise, and we just walk through the forest.
And we got across the whole land, and everybody
all the deer.
just walked.
Yep. Making all their noise. They made like wooden flappers that you'd flap and it would make noise. And we walked all the way across to that fence and then stood the fence up.
Yeah.
To move all the deer to the other side of the land.
Yes. And then it didn't work the first time, so we did a second time.
I don't even know why we did that, but that's what we were there for, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then we ended up being there for 3 months, and then we all went back. And this is kind of when it became, not good enough to be home. Kind of. It was a weird vibe. It was where Dad started taking, control, being like, all these people who had come to R17 or the YFC ranch during the raid that weren't said because it was only those who were named could be there. But at the raid time, all these people came there. Yeah,
bunch of crickers just came and were just living there on the land, and
it was just because children that had been separated from their mothers by him, they came. They were back with their children, and it was like a year of that. And so this 2009, when we went back to hiding from the deer chase, was him kind of taking control, sending people off the land, and getting it back to where he got to say who was there.
Yeah, so I would say initially when we went back to hiding, it wasn't because we were bad. It's just because that's where Father said to be.
Right. It was more, we had been planning, it was not going to be a thing where we stayed home, so now we had to go back, and we went back, but it wasn't just you're terrible. All of us went. All the children left.
And it was pretty fun at that time in hiding too.
Oh, it was. We moved from different caretakers a couple different times, and then
and when we say caretakers of hiding, we're talking about men that are the caretakers of the houses.
Family. So the guy and his family lived in the house and went shopping for us, did good words, kind of like the father, only he wasn't our father.
Yeah. And living in the houses of hiding, we're starting to get more and more messages from Warren Jeffs about being worthy to go back to the lands of refuge. And so 2009, 2010, we didn't get much messages from him. But if we did, they were generally more pleasant,
and it was a lot of time in between and no phone calls. We didn't hear phone calls from him that much. It was nice.
But we got it was more personal type of communication.
Yeah.
Where I would send a postcard and he might sign it and write and say,
even if it's God bless you or I love you. Yeah. It was like a treasure.
100%.
Yeah.
And then
we usually got to keep them.
Yeah, we got to keep them. So towards the end of 2010 is when, the middle to the end of 2010.
July 2010, we all moved back home to YFC Ranch. Yeah.
And now, if you went to hiding, you were bad.
Oh yeah. So now it's back to R17, YFC Ranch, and R23 in South Dakota. Hiding's bad. Like the worst place you could go. But in 2011 is when our new house started getting built.
In 2010.
2010. So our dad had a new house get built for his family.
Yes, and I'll put the picture of it up. And
it was right next to the house we call the original house.
Yes.
Right next to it, only a lot bigger.
And way nice.
And really nice and completely fenced, completely walled in.
White wall around it. Yep. The yard was all done. The parking lot was done.
And on this house, it was the same as the temple. You couldn't work on it unless you were a temple builder or a temple worker.
Yes. And you couldn't live in it unless you were what?
What did he call this one?
Oh, I forgot.
I can't remember the name, but it was another thing to be able to live in.
I think it was that you had to work on it too, wasn't it?
Yeah, the new house. Not so. This is 2010. Yeah, so it's a different thing now.
I can't even remember.
I can't remember what they called it.
Because we both got it.
Yeah.
I cannot remember. Some blessing to live.
But this house, so to work on it, to know about it, to know anything about it, you have to be appointed, So even if you were a temple builder or a temple worker, didn't mean you could just walk in there and work on it. We sewed curtains, bedspreads, towels. We made everything for
Nothing
the house.
in there could be bought.
Yeah, except for, plates and bowls and things like that.
Right.
But any towels, any clothing, anything have to be brand new and homemade.
Yeah, and they built this house. They missed the deadline a couple times.
Yeah.
But it was a big house.
But in our original house, only certain people in the family that were living there could know about the project. So you had to be called and appointed, your name said by Dad, to build chairs, to help sew curtains and drapes and towels and bedspreads.
Yeah, but then the day came that it was all done. Everything was completed.
And now
Warren Jeffs family's ready to move in.
He has to name who can move in.
And it was an odd time.
It was so odd because you were so terrified you'd have to stay, in the original house, and you wouldn't be good enough to live in this new house that had walls around it. And
so, did you initially move in?
I did. Yep.
You did. You moved in when I moved in.
Yep.
Okay.
So we had a deadline to clean it and get it all set up. So we went in, we cleaned the whole thing, and we set up all the beds with, coordinating colors with drapes and bedspreads and towel sets. So we cleaned it and then we set everything up, made every bed, and every room had a queen. Every room that was going to be, one of the mother's rooms had a queen bed.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what was different about this house between the original. The original was too small. Everyone had twin beds. The beds were there, all in there. We all had queen beds, and there was a couple bunk beds for the kids that would move in. But yeah, it was all queen.
For me, it was just me and one of my brothers in a bedroom. It wasn't four of us in a bedroom.
Yeah, it was way huger and bigger and just no. Anyway. Yeah, I moved in that. So we had the deadline to get it clean and to set up the kitchen. So they brought a U-Haul clear full of appliances and dishes, everything. So we set it all up, and the next morning, people were going to move in, but we didn't know who.
Remember when we were all in the living room? Everybody that was going to move in. Yeah, it's like we were told, be here at 10 a.m.
Yep.
And we were all there.
You would get a message, or the scribe who was helping Dad at that time would come and tell you to come to the living room at a certain time. And so we all come, and then that's all the people who are in there are moving. Yeah. And we had to get that blessing to move in.
Yeah, and we all got the blessing. I think that's when I got the blessing.
It's when I did too, because I didn't have it.
Yeah, we would go and sit in the front of the room and get a blessing to move in. And then everybody that moved in had to have 3 new pairs of clothes.
But that was before. So 2 months before, then Dad said we all had to make new clothes to be prepared to move into this new house.
Yeah. So when we moved,
we left everything old.
Yes, we moved into a new life.
Yep, completely new. We didn't wear any of our old dresses, socks, everything. Nothing. Yes. It was all brand new. Yeah, everything in that house was brand new, down to everything. Down
to your clothes. Yep. If he could have replaced us, he would have. I'm just saying, we took maybe some basic stuff. I think I had an iPod.
Well, my brush and comb. Oh, no, that was new too. Let's see. Yeah, I guess an iPod,
maybe your speaker.
Yeah, maybe things like that.
Electronics. No computers. No computers in the new house. Remember, there was a shed that we built.
And there was computer rooms. There was certain rooms for computers.
Oh, in the new house? Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that.
There was.
Okay. But there was a shed outside for a computer.
So if it couldn't be in that room, and usually it had to be approved, then you had to go outside the property, outside the fence to the shed.
Okay.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, and the yard was also completely planted when we moved in. Like,
Yep,
the
grass.
grass was done, the
was-
flowers, like the man planted all the
Yep.
flowers.
It was part of the deadline. It wasn't just the house that got built. It was the sidewalks and the turf and the flowers, everything.
And it was
Trees.
beautiful.
Trees,
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, and that was part of my job after we moved in, is to take care of the yard.
Yeah. So we move in and we're these special people because we get to but that was really weird too. Because after we moved in, then he said we couldn't talk to the people in the original house.
Correct. And that was weird because I'll show you. I'll put a picture up, but
Yeah,
they're
so
right by each other.
They're right by each other, and like you go to the storehouse, and there's people from the original house at the storehouse. It's like, what are you supposed to do?
You just walk past, wave maybe,
Say hi, and then because at first, when we first moved in, we would just go over to the original and just say hi to everybody and be like, oh, we miss you so much, and then we couldn't do that either, and we lived right by each other.
and it was special.
Yeah.
Because, like, you would walk out of one of those big man gates, and everybody would look
just
at you, be like
that
worthy.
is Zion.
And then you would
They are perfect.
yeah, you would be walking, and you would walk up to the door and start typing in the code.
Yeah, 'cause
and
there's a code on the
everybody was
gate.
like, if somebody was right there, they were like noting.
They're like, that is, someone who
are
is
worthy.
Zion.
Yeah, and so like for me, when I would, for example, if you walked away from the original and we're just like walking down the road to men's prayer or something, it was kind of rare that somebody stopped and picked you up and said, hey, do you want to ride? Like one of the men driving there.
Yeah.
But if you walked out of the new house gate,
Then they would pick you up.
oh, 100%.
Oh my gosh.
So.
That is crazy. Yeah. And then it got to where the sending away would be from the new house to the original house. You would get sent away.
Yes.
And have to gather all your stuff and move back to the original until they told you were good enough to move back to the new house.
And did you leave your clothes or not?
Oh yeah. The first time I did,
you
it
might
was
have
like,
kept them.
oh no, okay. So I get one day, then I get this message, and it's like, move back to the original, and my whole life is here. It was the worst thing that could happen.
Yes.
At this point, and so I got rid of all my old clothes. So I gather, I pack up what I can. I'm like, I'm gonna be back so quick. I'm gonna be so good. So I'm only taking a few things. But I went back to the original, and then I would meet the girls and give them my dirty clothes so they could wash them at the new house so they could stay,
Oh.
the new clothes.
Yes. That's crazy.
And it was about a week, and then I moved back.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
And I was living there the whole time, right?
Yeah, I think you stayed there. Mom got sent back to the original a couple times. And then soon after, you got sent away.
And I had to ask, we had to ask Uncle Isaac for me to go see Mother, because I was living in the new house.
At the original.
Mother was in the original. Had to ask Uncle Isaac so that we could come together and talk.
Yeah, so you could stay good enough to stay. It wasn't. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and it's crazy because they're right by each other.
Yeah.
But I got sent away in June of 2012. That was the first.
It had to have been 2011.
Oh, was it? No. Oh no.
Oh yeah, because the end of 2011 is when all us girls got sent away, and you got sent away before that.
Okay, June 2011?
11.
No. John Wayman was the bishop all through 2011, right? Yes. And 2012 was a whole
I
new
wasn't
ball
home
game.
at 2000. I only was home in 2012 for like 3 weeks.
I am pretty sure I was there all through 2011. John Wayman, yeah, Okay, June
Pretty sure it
2000.
wasn't 2010.
Okay, yes, June 2012 is when they built the tower.
Yeah,
right?
and I wasn't there.
Okay, that's when I got sent away, right?
But you got sent away before. Oh, it was in 2010. From the original, right? I wrote you a letter. You went to 23.
Oh, I went to yeah. That was before anybody moved into the new house.
Okay, yeah. So I was gonna say you got sent away, and what was weird was because we had spent some time after the raid, we got a little bit closer as mom's kids, you know. So you got sent away in the end of 2010.
Yes.
And I wrote you a letter. Did I ever give it to you?
I think so.
Yeah. So I write you this letter. I'm like, I'm going to write him a letter because I don't know why.
Yeah, I probably still have
Mom had to read it first.
I believe
before I came.
Yeah.
And when she said that, I felt so stupid for writing it. I was
really?
like, I'm just not ever going to do that again.
Oh, it meant a lot to me, though.
Yeah.
Like anybody, those kind of things meant a lot to me by that point.
Yeah.
So, thanks for doing that. But I was gone for 2 months.
Yeah.
And then
and Mom came with you or something.
Oh, she came. No, I got sent away to R23, which is the land of refuge in South Dakota.
Yeah.
Now, I was being so faithful to get to come back, but
Did you get sent to hiding?
no,
Oh, okay.
not at that point. So, mother was, she was very worried about me.
Oh yeah.
So she asked father if she could go up there for 1 week and be
spend
with
time
me
with you
and make sure that I was, being a good boy. And so mother comes up there for a week. She makes sure I have everything I need. She talks to me about not being like-minded, just all the good stuff. And then she leaves. I'm there for 2 months. And then I come back home. And then like a month or two later,
we move into the new house. Okay. Yeah, and we live at the new house, and I get sent away to the original, come back, and then it's really weird. The mothers so there's this wing of the house that we can't go in. It's Dad's part. It's secret and sacred, and only certain people go in there. The mothers are just disappearing all through the day. And they have certain times that they're all just all of a sudden gone. We loved it. We absolutely loved it. We had free reign of the house. We could do whatever we wanted. But of course we weren't bad or anything.
Yeah.
It was just
But I also feel
freedom.
like in the new house there was a degree of relaxation that you did not have at the
Anywhere
original
else.
or
Yeah.
anywhere.
It was like we made it, and not so many people lived there. It was only the people he said could live there. So it was a huge house with not very many people. Most of the rooms were empty, and you had space.
Yeah, and most of the mothers that didn't have children and whatnot, they mostly stayed in the original.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, even with children, stayed in the original. So the family was probably like split in half, essentially. Half of them in the new one. But
that were there because a lot of them were in hiding in other places. So yeah, we had a lot of freedom and things, and then we decided we didn't like certain of the plants that were.
But that was later.
Yeah.
So in 2012, June 2012 is when I was sent away.
Okay, but we got sent away way before that.
Not for the flowers.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. No, I'm serious.
No, because I was at 23 when you guys were sent away from the new house.
So we got sent away for the flowers in January, December 31st, 2011.
I think that was 2011.
I didn't even go home. I went home for 3 weeks in that year.
In 2012. Were you at home when I got sent away from the new house?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No. Okay, February 2012, I go to the triplexes by myself for 3 weeks. I'm 15. By myself. And then I go to hiding. I moved 12 times that year. I go from hiding to all these different houses. And then I go up to 23. And then I get sent back to the triplexes. 2012 was the year of the triplexes.
You came back home, right?
For 3 weeks, and I lived at the original in 2012.
Okay, keep telling your story.
Sorry. We might have to cut some of that. So we decide that we don't like some of the plants that are planted, you know, how the men planted all the, you know, flowers and everything. So we go and we pull up all these bulbs that we don't like. No one was there. No one was taking care of I mean, you guys probably did, you know, people were coming and going, and we were like, you know what? We have free reign of this place. We're just gonna do what we want. So we dig up bushes, we dig up bulbs, and we take them and we dump them out in the woods. And we plant other things. So that next year when everything comes up, you know, it'll be how we want it to look. And then right after that, then people started cleaning the temple. So it was like another thing where only if you were told that you could, then you got to go clean the temple. And a bunch of my sisters did, but I didn't. Well, someone wrote to Dad and told him that we dug up all the flowers. Not all the flowers, but a bunch of flowers. And so this family message, you know, we're gathered for this family message. And in front of the whole family, he sends us away for desecrating the land and pulling out the flowers. So
Isn't it something like destroying life?
Yeah. Yeah, and it came so out of the blue. It was so crazy. But
Okay.
it also felt like
Hold
the
on.
mothers were getting one over on us.
I think I'm messed up a little bit here, because I lived at the triplexes at R17.
Oh, that was probably this year.
I cannot remember. I don't think I was at the new house. I think I did move away and then moved back. But I think I lived in the triplexes.
Okay, so the triplexes I'm talking about are in Short Creek.
Yeah. The triplexes she's talking about.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah. They're in the creek, and every cricker knows, which is a lot of people watching this video. Maybe I'll throw a picture of them up. But the triplexes at home were very similar.
They got built around the same time. Brand new, you know, really nice, but it became sectioned off, and like Levi was supposed to live there too, and he couldn't talk to anyone else on the land.
I don't think I lived in those. Not until later.
I don't know.
Not until I came back later.
Levi did.
Levi literally got moved out of the new house. Oh no, he wasn't in the new house. He got moved from the original
to the triplex.
To the
and couldn't talk to
triplexes.
anyone in here or here.
And couldn't talk to any of the family, and he wouldn't even show up at men's prayer, as far as I remember. It was the weirdest thing.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because
much
for a
about
while, I was the one doing the classes at the new house, which means I was the oldest.
I wasn't there
boy
when you
there.
were doing it.
Oh really?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
But this the flower thing, it happened the end of December of 2011. So we get sent away. So we get sent away to 23, and it's a big thing, and the dynamic between the mothers and us girls was kind of different, and a lot of them were always like, you guys think you're so good, you know, and now look, you're getting sent away, so you're not that good, or you know.
Yeah.
We heard a lot of comments like that. But yeah, we were moving. We lived in the new house. We, you know, we helped with a lot of projects. I don't know. I guess some of them were jealous. We got the attention we did, but
Some of the mothers.
yeah. But so we moved to 23, and we're there through January, and part at the beginning of February. While we're at 23 in South Dakota, we henna our hair. So we didn't dye it, we just used henna, and my hair was like a really pretty auburn. I just added a little bit of red to my hair. You know, it wasn't that big of a change, but we used henna, and we did it all on our hair. And
all the girls.
all of us girls did it. And then I got to go back home. I get back home, and I'm there for like 2 weeks. And then someone tells Dad that we hennaed our hair. And so he sends another message, and it's read in front of the whole family. But this one also went to everyone in the church. Even in Short Creek, it was, if you change the color of your hair, you can't go in the temple.
Mm-hmm.
And or receive priestly blessings. And to our family, he said any of us girls who did it had to get sent away again. So, you know, quite something we do goes to the whole church. I remember feeling so stupid. I'm like, everyone probably wonders where this came from.
All the crickers are probably just like, just because you guys did that, we had, you know.
They probably didn't even know why, but that was why, because we did it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I went back to 23 and was there for about, I don't even know. I can't remember the time frames, but was there for a little bit. Most of the girls had gone, so it was just kind of me in my own world. And I'm, you know, hoping to get to go back home soon. The other girls have gone back home, and I'm 15, and I get this message, and it's a brutal, brutal message. Like,
so this is 2012.
This is 2012, February 2012. This message tells me all these people are getting messages to go home, so I think finally I'm going home. But I go into my sister's closet and listen to this message, and all 3 scribes are on the phone reading this message. And it is terrible. It was so bad. It was like, you've been immoral, you've, you know, done all this stuff. You have to be a non-member now. And this was the first time I'd ever heard that we could be a non-member, you know. So it was scathing. It was the worst message I've ever received.
I believe it.
And he told me I had to go live by myself with Roy.